So welcome to this very special evening where we are gathering to celebrate the launch of Bedsores and Bliss, Finding Fullness of Life with a Terminal Diagnosis by Hanna du Plessis. I'm Sarah Shotland, Program Director of Mad Women in the Attic at Carlow University. And our book imprint, Mad Books, has been so thrilled to collaborate with Hanna and Marc Rettig of OK Then to bring Hanna's book into the world and to co-sponsor tonight's event. And we have many people to thank. We want to thank City of Asylum, of course, and the team here, including Alexis, who's taking care of all the technical wizardry that allows more than just the people in this room to be in this room. So welcome also to all of you who are beaming in via the interwebs. Thanks to our incredible and generous readers tonight who have responded to a writing prompt that Hanna created that you can read on your program. I'll summarize it by saying that Hanna asked us all to consider what in our lives feel terminal and how we move forward in the face of that terminality. Thanks to Marc for your partnership in editing and designing this book. And thanks to the many, many hands that make events like this possible, the facilities and care labor, who are people who so often become invisible, but who make spaces like the beautiful room we're in right now clean and safe and warmly welcoming to all of us. And of course, thank you all for being here to be some of the first readers and audience for this work. But of course, our biggest thanks goes to Hanna tonight. Yeah. You have given us a gift that is so worthy of celebration. And I'm going to talk more about that in a moment, so you just get your tissues ready. But I want to let everybody know how tonight's going to go. Okay, so tonight you're going to hear excerpts from Hanna's book, and they're going to be read by Marc. Okay? And you're also going to hear from these amazing writers behind me whose bios are on the back of your program. And you're also going to get to hear from Hanna. And before I turn the mic over to Marc, who's going to say a few things about OK Then and the book, it feels really important for me to say a few things about what working as an editor and collaborator on this project has meant to me. So this is a book of essays. And I really fell in love with essays once I learned something about their origin. So the story of the essay and how it came to be is actually this story of the impossible love of friendship. Montaigne, who is the guy who is credited with creating the modern essay, spent decades of his life writing these long, long letters back and forth to his best friend. And they talked about everything in these letters in that way that best friends do. They talked about philosophy and work and love and politics and nature and family. And then his best friend died. And Montaigne didn't have any place to send his letters. So what is he going to do? How is he going to survive without his friend and this life-sustaining conversation that they've been a part of? Well, what he does in the face of loss is what we do as humans. He made things. When we lose people, some of us make bread and soup, and some of us make books and songs, and he started writing letters to his friend, attempts, these impossible attempts to love and reach his friend beyond death. And that attempt is where the meaning of the word essay comes from. The definition, the literal definition of the word essay is to attempt. To attempt to continue loving something that we've lost. And Hanna, it's so fitting that your book is a book of essays. And that it has reminded me with each edit, with each conversation we've had about it, that one of the essential qualities of an essay is this attempt at building a friendship despite impossible loss. And one that in your care, in your craftsmanship, in your talent, you have made me feel is a little bit less impossible. Working with you has changed me. It's changed the way I think about the work of both the writer and the editor. And one of the things that's changed about me is it's made me think about time differently. The way this project had to be made was really quite remarkable. We had to accept that we were making something very, very slowly. Each letter of this book was made by you moving your eyes across a digital keyboard in what sometimes felt like the slog of like geological time. Just the slowest thing that we could imagine, but also we had to work with the urgency of wanting to publish something quickly enough that we could be here with you tonight to celebrate it with you. There's kind of a funny, famous saying that there are only two kind of writers, fast and slow. But you, Hanna, are both. And that is a lesson I'm going to take with me into every creative endeavor I attempt from here on out. That marriage of patience and urgency that you've taught me, you have done that most writerly trick of defying time. It's the thing that gets so many of us into writing in the first place. The way we totally lose time when we read and write, and the way we time travel when we read the work of a writer from another era who seems to be speaking just to us, and the way we offer one another the deepest gift of all when we make things with each other and for each other, and that's the gift of our precious, fragile time well spent. As many of you know, I spent about 15 years working very closely with writers in prison. And Hanna's question for our readers tonight was in part to address what felt terminal in their lives. Working in prison often felt terminal to me, but it also came to feel palliative. The work that we did together, writing both because of and in spite of that violence, felt like a great web of care and comfort inside that big machine of broken possibility that is the prison system. And one of the things I learned in prison that it is that the word for letter in prison is kite. You write your friends a kite, and when you send it to them, you're flying that kite. Like Montaigne, like those first essays, those letters, those kites are attempts at making contact with those we love despite impossible odds. Hanna, I think that this collection, what you've given us, for me, is this beautiful, free constellation of kites. It's a way that we're going to be able to find you in the sky and look at all the beautiful things you've made after you leave this place. I want to thank you for the gift of this book and the gift of your time working with me. And thank you for building a friendship with me in the process of facing this loss. I'm going to bring what I've learned into all my work with whatever time I have left to make things, and with all the time I have left to keep attempting making in the face of loss. So thank you so much. I hope that all of you will be able to really take in all the voices that you hear tonight. And I hope that maybe you'll be able to write your own kites in response to some of the things that you hear tonight and some of the things that you read when you read Hanna's amazing work. I really appreciate you being here. And I'm going to hand it over to Marc.
Well, as Sarah said, the publication of this book is what sparked tonight's gathering, but it's bigger than that. This is the first printed expression of a decades-old longing for Hanna, for her voice to be a gift to others' becoming and liberation, and for myself to make platforms that amplify people's voice and serve their becoming. So OK Then, which published the book in partnership with Mad Books, is a kind of vehicle in progress for living into those longings. So to that end, we're growing our ability to support the development of people's work and to design and produce and publish books, yeah, but other forms too, audio, we'll find out. So this is the first of more, at least 3, I think there's more, books from Hanna. The next one will come out early next year. It's longer. And we're really excited to share these births with you. So thanks for being here. Now I want to show you these links. Now a word from our sponsor. I want to let you know that this Hanna's book is for sale right after the readings. There's a stash of them up there at the register. You can also buy it online. Hanna illustrated a children's book called Bappa's Bald Stories. There's also a few of those back there. And there are some ways here to follow Hanna's story and be up to date on when her work is coming out, and also to be to contribute financially to the cost of her care. And these links, if you remember OK Then, you can pretty much find the rest of those things. I mean, yeah. So, Hanna, what would you like to say? I have the pictures you want. I'm not going to show them until, okay, this picture.
Right behind me is a picture of a young woman. She wears a party hat and dangling earrings. She is pretty but unsmiling. Only if you look closely will you see that her mouth is skillfully stitched closed with a rose-pink thread. I drew the image a decade ago, around the time I started to attend writing workshops. During my first semester-long writing workshops, everything I wrote was nice, uplifting and pretty. My instructor at the time encouraged me to go deeper. By the end of the semester, held by the warmth of the writing group, I was able to feel into something true, something I kept behind, that rose-colored thread of my enculturation. And from then on, the page became a refuge to me, a sanctuary where I could be honest without being questioned, without the fear of censorship or the burden of emotional caretaking. Looking back, writing has become an essential practice in liberation. I am beyond grateful for every writing community I could join, especially Mad Women in the Attic and the MFA program at Carlo that became miraculously possible for me. Lastly, Marc has been there to listen to my first whispers and continued to edit my words to make it passable in my second language. Images from our book. These are examples gathered over years of him helping me make sense of English. So amongst other roles, he is my consistent literary partner. And while I mourn the fact that I cannot read my own words to you, I am so grateful that I have a companion who can. Thank you, Marc. Xiv, Xiv.
There's a lot of those. Possible future book. March 2023. I'm embarrassed to say I didn't notice the symptoms. Friends did. Well, that's not entirely true. I did notice that I had little energy. But since burnout is nothing new to me, I thought it was that. Me not setting firm enough boundaries, or me caring for others at the expense of myself. I was working full-time, running workshops on social change while teaching part-time in New York City. I spent time in my community and with my partner and his children. I took a writing workshop at Carlo University. I swam and did yoga. When my speech started to slur, I thought it was my cold mixed with my tired. But my colleague pulled me aside and said, "I'm concerned about your speech. I think you should see a doctor." And then it hit me. Something might be wrong. I lived with the knowledge that I might have a serious neurological disease for 5 months before I was able to see the ALS specialist. The day I'm diagnosed, the specialist says, "This is the most terrible disease, something you do not wish on your worst enemy." This body, unhurriedly, paralyzing itself over years. He tells me I have ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, a bulbar onset case which begins with slurred speech and trouble swallowing. It progresses faster than limb onset ALS, and most people die within 2 years of diagnosis. I ask him, "Is life with ALS worth living?" In my journal, I write, "I'm 46. I have my life ahead of me. I have finally broken out of the cycle of survival. My family lives till they're toothless. I cannot be dying, not when I'm only starting to live."
I'm going to open with just 2 poems from a manuscript that comes out of many, many years of processing my loss of my loved one. And I'm going to do it for you. Because it was 15 years ago. Hello. 15 years ago this week. So, light as air. The room is whirring breath that pulses with lights and beeps, compression cuffs, accordion, his calf muscles. Our son jumps out of his stroller, and I lift him up into the air, onto the bed. He looks at me, he looks at Mike, cautious and shy. Did I turn this off? Can you still hear me? Okay. I place him next to his father. Careful of the tubes, Nico. This one helps Daddy breathe. Mike watches as Nico reaches to touch his father's hand. A box mounted by the door, blue latex gloves. I begin to blow air into the glove that grows like a turkey head. Nico's face aglow with delight. The glove grows the size of his toddler head. The first balloon flies out of my hand, releases before I can twist its umbilicus. Zips away. He laughs. Mike's eyes are gentle and bright. I try again, more successful this time. I let go and watch the balloon float towards Mike, towards Nico. He taps the balloon to keep it from falling. I blow multiple balloons and the small room fills with floating turkeys like giant cartoons above Madison Avenue on Thanksgiving morning. One by one, the balloons float past the foot of the bed. They float past the feeding machine, past the IV and Mike's pillow. They float past the ventilator, past the edge of the bed where we sit. All gone, Nico says. All gone. This one is called Valentine. We make Valentine's Day cards, hand-cut paper hearts, a pink and orange. I fold his card in half and address the front. Dada, heaven. How will we send it, Mama? We place the card inside the fire pit. The flames turn to ash. The ash rises up like tiny gray kites, circling and circling. The ash rides the smoke until it dissolves into sky. I'm gonna just leave that there. So my last, I'm gonna call it a body poem for all of us. And it's so maybe just an experiment in creating some kite strings. So just feel your feet into the ground and take a breath all together and a breath out. And let that breath mingle with each other and let it kiss Hanna's cheeks. Breathe in and breathe out. Let it embrace our hearts and her heart. And let your feet grow roots like threads and feel them connecting and holding each other's hands in the earth. We're connecting like an ancient forest. We're connecting and we're holding and we're grounding with Hanna right now, with each other. And this connection is born out of the earth, and it is ancient and it is eternal. And from that connection, you can draw up the energy into the feet, into your ankles, and into your calves and your shins and up your knees and in your thighs and the bowl of your pelvis and the bowl of your belly up into the lungs, where you can breathe the air that lights all the cells and feel each cell, all 3 trillion cells of your body breathing. And we're breathing together, and we're breathing with Hanna, and we're building this light, this string of light and air and breath, and it's extending all the way past the universe, past the stars, all the planes and all of the realities, and in our dreams and in our bodies and in our minds and in our words and breath. We are a light with this string, and this kite is floating like a star right above us, and we're going to sing it free with one word together, and we're going to say it, ha, 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 na.
Hello. Is this yes? Yes, good? Okay. Hello. I'm Joy. These are some sticks. Hanna, this might be an essay, but it's a try at responding to your prompt. So I've been reading this book. The book is called This Is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared. I waited a long time for it to come from the library. It's about the days of awe, which are the days between Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, and Yom Kippur, the Jewish Day of Reckoning. So these 10 days come in September or October, depending on the lunar calendar. And every copy of the book is always checked out all year, except now, after the important days are over, and people have gone back to like their toothpaste and their coffee and everything. So I've got it. So the days of awe wind up in an intense kind of spiritual nakedness in the last moments of Yom Kippur, the first moments of night, after a 28-hour fast. As the book of life is closing for the year, the book of life people ask to be inscribed in rather than into the book of death. So it's like a spiritual accounting. You ask to be bound up in life for another year, but of course that's not guaranteed. Yom Kippur is really a day that lets you face, with lots of people around you and lots of guidance, the possibility that you might die. There's a ceremony at sundown where the rabbis open the Ark, which is the place where the Torah scrolls are kept. And if you want, you can stand before it, wrapped in your white talit, which is it's like a big shawl. They're very beautiful, and the ones people use on Kippur are enormous and pure white. It's a sacred place and a holy moment, and I have so far not got the courage to do that part. But I watch families and people holding newborns, couples, and individuals stand there, and it's like they are naked before disaster. And then afterward, you go to a disco, break the fast, on the roof of the temple. There's a big wild dinner, a real record scratch after the long praying. And after that, there's a new holiday, and you build a funny little house. So this house everyone builds is thrown together in your backyard or front yard, and you eat all your meals in this house for 7 days, or maybe it's 8 days. This house has no roof. You get rained on. It's an idea of a house, a parody of a house, an outline of a house, with a fabric wall on 3 sides and a few boughs of trees for a roof, and that's it. In this house, nothing can protect you from the elements. And you might have seen people tossing up these houses, these hasty houses, like in Squirrel Hill in early fall. They tend to appear in some people's front yards.
You might have even been invited into one. People decorate them with gourds and string lights. And there's a table in it and some chairs, and that's it. And the one my dad put up every Sukkot, that's what this holiday is called, Sukkot, was just metal poles he let out sit until they rusted more and more, and old shower curtains for walls. It really embarrassed me. So I have definitely something to write about the better illusion of a house with white fabric walls like a Bedouin tent I would have liked, the better illusion I would have liked to live inside. But anyway, putting up this odd little house is a record scratch after Yom Kippur. We sit in them, these huts, these little elevators, it rains inside, so we can let go of our need for material protection. So we can laugh at how unprotected we are all the time when all that's left is our life. So somehow being there on Yom Kippur, just before we go into these little houses, having been naked in front of the bare truth that we could die at any moment, makes it beautiful to sit inside a flimsy shack. Or at least that's the idea that Alan Liu, who wrote this book, This Is Real and You Are Completely Unprepared, says. And he says, all we have left is our life, doing its dance, he says, one step after the other. I'm not personally sure of the connection between the dance and the sukkah, the house. It just hasn't sunk in for me yet. But Alan Liu says, any feeling fully felt is joy, and this includes pain. Any feeling deeply fully felt is joy, even grief, disbelief, or fear. Grief, disbelief, and fear have sunk in for me, especially lately after the election. I have my own fears, real new risks to my family, the knowledge of being in danger, a hunted feeling, and the larger, widening circles of risk that wash up on the edges of so many peoples in every country, not just here. I don't know what to do with this. It's too big. So tonight we're sitting here creating a circle, or a semicircle, a circle around death and feeling ourselves together, feeling death together, and just sitting here in the absurdity of it. I really fully feel it. And I choose to believe that we are fully feeling death together and that this is joy. Hanna asks, how might we support each other as we lose what's precious? Recently, our rabbi, Sharon Brous, said, in this mix of intimate and global pain, can we find a way to be grateful nonetheless? I don't know. It only led me to a question. Do I praise this intense sadness and rage I feel, or do I find ways out of it? And my gut says we do both. We sing and read and see each other here, and then we go home to our toothpaste and socks. And then we wake up in this pain and rage and fear, and we find each other again, and then we go back to ourselves, and this is the dance. This is the only thing that makes sense to me as the dance. Last week, I was in a small tornado. I don't want to overstate it, but I'm from Ohio, and so you have to believe that I know it was a tornado, but a small one. It was one. And suddenly... you probably got the warnings on your phone, so you know it really happened. Everything was loud and flying suddenly, and I was in the backyard. I knew I had two options, either stand and scream or run for the house, and both were stupid, really. So I ran through shrubs to the house, and right where I was standing, a huge limb of the tree Seth built a treehouse in crashed down where I'd been standing. I thought it was the roof of the treehouse. I was speed dialing you from the tornado. But the house held. That house held. I wanted to leave us with something tonight, some brief but tangible way for us to be with each other over the next days or weeks. So my idea was, I was sitting at my counter today thinking, I know, I'm going to have each of us find someone here that you don't know and get their phone number, and then text an emoji or an image or a message that I'd write, which I realized was not a good idea at all in any way. I knew I wanted something to go on, but I didn't really have any ideas whatsoever. So I went into the backyard and stood there, and I went to where the branch fell that didn't crush me and got some pieces. I don't know how to get us through last Hanna except in company. So if we each take a piece of one of these twigs from the tree that literally didn't kill Joy, or no, it didn't crush Joy, we'll have a token of this refuge that is only us. The twig is not a relic. It's not even the idea of a house. It's not anything. It's just a piece of beautiful coincidence. Oh, so.
While we have this moment, I want to say Medina has laryngitis and we miss her presence dearly.
But Medina, you're watching the live stream, I bet, or the recording. We miss you and love you. You just stay right there. Context for this piece. A donor gifted me with the opportunity to enroll in an MFA in creative writing at Carlow University. The first writing residency was in Dublin in June of 2023, and the following piece takes place on an outing to the west coast of Ireland the Sunday before we head back to Dublin. On Sunday morning, Rachel walked me down to the lake. It was warm enough to swim. Donna held up a towel to create a changing room for me. I was for this water like a desert was for rain. I couldn't get in quickly enough. But the ragged rocks bit into my feet, soft from city shoes. I was afraid I'd fall. Sienna offered her flip-flops. Matthew and Carlo took my hands and walked with me until I could lower myself into the bosom of the lake to be caressed by the silky water. There are no words for how much I love to swim. Carlo walked me all the way out of the lake and then returned to swim some more. I hurriedly dried myself as I still needed to pack before we left. Again, Matthew helped me carry my things to the bus. The lady at reception said, "Please come back." I replied, "I definitely will." But it was not quite a lie. My heart really wanted to, but my body, this body, is dying. Then Edward came up to shake my hand, his green eyes sparkling, and he said confidently, "I'll see you again, Hanna." Part of our group was staying behind to go swim in the ocean, something I longed for just as much, if not more, than swimming in the lake. But I didn't have the energy of my pre-ALS self. I dragged myself to the back of the bus. I wanted to come back. I wanted to swim in the Atlantic and have dinner at Brian's place, then take the train back to Dublin. I wanted to, but I could not. Brian came to hug me goodbye. A small storm of loss rumbled through me and spilled into public view. Rachel came and sat beside me, put her hand on my back, and offered me a tissue. On Monday, back in the air-conditioned classroom of Trinity College, Teddi took a seat next to me. She's one of the people who stayed in Sligo to visit the ocean. When the reading ended, she handed me a tiny see-through shopping bag. In the bag were 3 shells she'd picked up at the beach. I held one to my ear, and I heard the song of the sea. My heart swelled and tingled like bubbles on a breaking wave. Good image. That night, I woke up in the wee hours, unable to return to sleep. I reached for the large shell. It fit snugly in my hand. I rested my thumb in the smooth opening. My phone played the sound of the ocean, and I imagined myself being carried. January 2024, during a writing residency in Pittsburgh. I was angry when you picked me up late because I really had to pee. And unlike you, who can whip out your penis and aim it at a urinal, I wait for the disabled bathroom, a popular place to poop. Then I maneuver the wheelchair in at the right angle, park, power off so I don't accidentally knock my caretaker over. Then I need help to stand up, pull my panties down, lower myself onto the seat, and only then can I pee. Also, you texted, on my way, stay in a warm place, 3 minutes before you were supposed to be here. But by then I was a disabled entrance, but by then there was a disabled entrance with a broken key card, and B, 3 slopes between us and that warm place, and I was already starting to slide down the slope. Damn this icy weather. And I didn't want to careen all the way onto Fifth Avenue, as I almost did on Saturday. And besides, a nice lady was talking to my caretaker saying, "Does she need help?" As if I am not a fully functioning human being. Even though I can't manage to keep my saliva in my mute mouth, I can be in conversation, you know, if you help me take my mitten off and hand me my board to write on. But I digress. I was angry because we were waiting in that merciless wind, gusts pushing Canadian cold right up into our eyeballs, turning my ALS-infested extremities into metal. Metal with nerve endings, which is to say, they resounded with pain. And then, when wetness mizzled from the sky, and it wasn't even pretty like snow, just half-frozen sky sweepings. And when, finally, you arrived, and my furious eyes disappeared between my ill-fitting mask and my oversized hat, I couldn't even tell you how pissed I was. Forced instead to steep in my misery, though I really wanted to tell you, as you're the only man who can hear my anger.
Thank you all for being here, and Hanna, thank you for having me be a part of this. I did that thing where I came with one set list, and now I've changed my mind completely, which happens sometimes to writers, I think. And I usually don't talk very much, but I'm going to just explain this one. A few years ago, I worked with the Houston Volunteer Lawyer Association as a translator. And this is a poem I wrote for Arturo, who was a detained child who did not have representation. And so it's a different kind of feeling of terminality, I think. To Arturo, who has never smelled the sea. Sand, Turo, sand. It smells like dirt, like tanning, like plants, like salt. 20 dead jellyfish. Smells like 20 dead jellyfish. Empty aluminum, trash cans, and sweat. Smells like old people, sunlight, bird shit, Fritos, passports, postage stamps, 2 razor blades, and the back of your father's hand. Smells like a lighter, burnt hair, your sister, her friends, school, the corner store, and tamales. Smells like the barrio, Santa Maria, the Rio Grande Valley, your mother's incense and charcoal. The ocean, Turo, the ocean. Smells like old oak and a front door. I think a lot about, I have a family member who was recently hospitalized, and how much we all had to lie about what our relationship was to Debbie to go be able to see her in her room. And it reminded me of a poem I wrote several years ago called The Airplane Wife. A gunman in Los Angeles delays all flights, How a crisis at LAX grounds our non-Californian locations will only speculate. My paramour texts me with his seatbelt unbuckled, bristled in hair and humor. Selfishly, we worry about losing our here. We guard precious time, these tarmacked hours a tragedy's theft. I jump into fix-it mode, call the airline, make sure there's a seat on the next flight. It takes 2 minutes. The woman is cheerful. They would have done it anyways, she assures. He'll be late, but he'll be here. I declare to her for no reason at all. I hear the smile in her voice as she agrees. He'll be there. Here is a bag of doubts and nails, a collapse of time and distance between coasts and better judgment. What I don't tell my love. When she asked my relationship to the passenger, I hesitated. Then I said, wife. Wife, I said. Because I knew it'd be easier to lie for efficiency, to explain the information and confirmation codes I kept, the kind of lie that sounds true for having said it, like I love you, or forever, or hello. His seatbelt will click soon after I've put down the phone. I'll try on the word for a moment, like my mother's heavy opium-toned perfume, and find it too strong for daily wear just yet. I imagine all the concerned voices calling after the shooting, all the airlines reassuring them that yes, he's coming, she'll be there, they'll be there, the scared husband who cannot remember how long his wife's connection lasted, suddenly swallowing his heart, the boyfriends, girlfriends, roommates, and lovers who pretend to be siblings and spouses, parents and counsel, ostensibly to fix things, the lie white enough almost to be transparent in our quick pauses and strained cough. When I ask, will he finally be here? Tonight, the airline lady says. Before tomorrow, he'll be home. What I don't tell her, the house in my voice, the kin in my relief, it is a gunman in an airport, utterly familiar and terrifying, the surprise of never believing the official story. In which I tell you about my morning. In the hospital, I am quiet. He looks smaller, broken, old. I consider how fat I look in white and how skinny he looks in his. You look like a model, old man, I want to say, but I don't. He's always maintained my sense of humor, a boxer above its weight class, my laugh a libertine. Instead, I bring him water, mumble things at the nurses beyond his hearing, and loudly tell my mother on the phone that she should come take my place. I'll relieve you, I say, as if sitting vigil to the old man's decline is less work than filling out endless forms. I want to tell him that his death seems real in a way I'd never considered before, that I'm scared to see him so fleshy and tubed, that I saw them cut into his spine, tear through his flesh and reveal him made of paper and thread, that I saw his bones beautiful, that I cannot bury them, that I can only cradle them as my own. He tells me I'm too chubby and too quiet. He tells me to bring him more water. I do all this and hold his hand, squeeze it harder than I should, and hope that says I love you enough without resorting to words. I see him choke up and turn away. My eyes say too much already. And then I thought I would end on a poem about God, because, that's a thing. In this poem, at one point, I note that I am a bad Catholic in a couple of different ways. The way I am a worse Catholic is that I am Jewish. So, happens. I discovered my Jewish heritage much later in life and then just went full in. So, that's how it goes. The Heretic's Guide to Living with Gingivitis. Only 2 things terrify me, and I think Jesus is self-explanatory. The other is my teeth falling out. I read on the internet this is a common terror, something we all share that transcends kind. We fear Grandpa's dentures, the gaping hole where knives once lived, the beast declawed and capped. Bleeder, my dentist baptized me, as if my molars plotted against her. I pled good regimen, burning mouthwash, and righteous flossing, but she pointed out that some folks are just bleeders. Like menstruation and stigmata, gums remind me of the holy within the body, except I swallow the rust of nails, taste the iron and saw. I could handle the tooth part of detachment. I am not so vowed to bone that I cannot replace it. No, my fear is what remains raw, nerved whole, denuded, my tongue hesitant in exploration, the Thomas doubt of flesh manifest. I lick my wounds too often for them to heal clean. How I am a bad Catholic. The Jesus in my bedroom is abstract. Wrought aluminum, stick-figured, haloed on walnut, lean on his cross, shiny like a dentist's pick, pure like a nightmare. Thank you.
Thank you, Hanna, for having me here. I've been thinking while I've been sitting up here, and this is kind of what I'm reading about tonight, is that to be trans is kind of to live as this, like, Schrodinger's person where, like, I'm alive, and also, I guess maybe to other people, parts of me have died, and to me, parts of me have died, and there are new parts of me that are alive that I don't know about, that they don't know about, and that we're all constantly discovering together. And what I'm really grateful for in your prompt is that I was able to explore some of these ideas with a lot less filter than I have before. And so I just have 3 new poems to read tonight. My friend asks me how I'm saving money. When I'm old, I'll regret it. Says this while he taps a rifle against the fat of my arm, the arsenal he's filling for the end times. My father is 66 years old this year and still delivers flowers to the people in his town whose families will not see them for birthdays or dinner dates or Christmas, driving up and down New Jersey 7 days a week with no health insurance. To him, 401k is a segment off a license plate. The apple hasn't fallen far. If you asked me 10 years ago, would I ever get old, I'd have laughed at you. I know old men, their dusty fedoras, the way they never tell you who they really loved, how their liver-spotted hands hold back tears only after a funeral or when 3 martinis deep. I didn't think I'd see even this, almost 40. I didn't want a gray beard. Now, when I cough, I beat my chest just like my father does, and every splitting headache could be a stroke. I don't tell my friend and the handgun I've been killing myself since I was 7. I could try to imagine rich old women, stock options, security. I could think about tomorrow, but it seems far off and cold and not so guaranteeable over the sound of these red numbers burning on the ATM screen where I rub my palms together feverishly, count the hairs on the back of my hands, put something off until tomorrow or next week, pretend I don't have to worry, not a wart, not a heart attack, not my pretty little head. My mother says she's worried how others could treat me, and it's hard not to imagine a thunk in a voting booth, a hole irretrievably stabbed into a sheet of paper, secret contract that we shouldn't name. My mother, like a dog, fears her own reflection. Like a fugue or a fugitive, forgets her own scent. I have a dead mother, or my mother is dead to me, is how I would say it on the therapist's couch. My mother says she's worried how others could treat me, and I'm flying through the air in a bucket of bathwater, intimately understanding the meaning of residue. The internet boasts hundreds of methods for getting rid of soap scum, with some of the most often cited including vinegar, peroxide, Castile soap, all bottles I don't stock in my own home. I never saw my mother clean once, or go to confession, or look in a mirror. I don't know how to use Windex. My mother says she's worried how others could treat me, calls herself evil queen, calls me condescending, ungrateful, calls me more than once a day till I stop answering, and then says maybe one day she'll be worthy of me. She looks through a Christmas window of me surrounded by love, and it's like another language for both of us. My mother, who taught me how to float on my back to survive, who I no longer can afford to believe, with this chicken leg in my hand and this spinet and the lights blinking some kind of rhythm I can translate if I just focus hard, and really want it. Excuse me. This last one is called Ode to My Square Jaw. In high school, I catfished my classmates with details like a belly button ring and imagined getting so wet from their long fingers pressing on something sacred inside me. I still don't apologize for that. When I think of my grandmother, I can see her steel gray hair flipping up at the ends and a shock of jet black underneath. The opposite of the silver, wiry gleam kirakiring the stubble on my chin in the late-night LED show. There's a list I can make of women from other cultures or hormonal conditions who look a lot like me and beautiful. But when I write my affirmation lists, often something belies the translation. I keep hair on my legs for winter. I'm a tenor with small, conical breasts. My voice is deeper than yours, but not the men's I sleep with. I am trying no longer to apologize for that. I will update you as needed. Thank you.
Summer of 2024. Let's see if I can persuade this up a little bit. Probably. I feel so chicken when like I might hurt something. All right. Summer of 2024. If I could draw, I would pull up the picture of human evolution. The one with the ape growing taller and more human-like until it becomes an upright modern man. I would start with an upright woman walking with confidence. Then she'd be slightly hunched over, then walking with a cane. Then there's more curve in her back as her hands lean on a walker. Then I would round her back more, contort her hands and feet, strap her arms to an upright walker. Then a series of increasingly sophisticated wheelchairs. Finally, the woman would recline on a hospice-supplied hospital bed. If I was feeling morbid, I would end by drawing flowers growing strong from the worm farm I had become. I am experiencing a pulling apart, the world moving out of my reach, while the self I know recedes into a mute, motionless, shallow-breathed being. It feels as if I have built my life on a fault line, and the earth is cracking open under my bare feet, pulling and splintering the pine floorboards, snapping the timber frame like matchsticks, ripping the siding of my shelter apart. My eyes burn with dust. My lungs grasp for oxygen amidst particles of paint and plaster. I can't keep steady and start to slip out of my home into the moist earth below. The contrast between my life now and my life in Dublin a year ago illuminates how slow dying tears my world apart. Last year, I flew on an airplane and rode a bus. I walked carefully over the cobblestones and up the stairs to our reading without aid, enjoying the freedom to roam. Now, the plague of locusts has moved over the lush field of my musculature, leaving lifeless tissue in its wake. Last year in Ireland, I sank my eager mouth into soft salmon and finished a pint of Guinness with glee. This year, at the 4th of July cookout, I long for a burger. Photos show me laughing in my wheelchair, hooked up to something that looks like an IV drip. It's plugged into a port on the left side of my torso, 2 inches under my breast. 90% of my food consists of factory-made complete meals, the color of cardboard, piped to my belly through a tube. Any liquids, yes, beer and coffee too, must be thickened and fed to me. And please don't forget my bib and tissues for drool. Last year in Ireland, and as I came home to Pittsburgh, I felt woven into life. Every day held an adventure, a reading, a group dinner, a boat ride to Inishmore, a canoe ride down the river. I felt a sense of belonging to multiple communities, landscapes, places and bodies of water. I felt a freedom I took for granted. Now, I feel how disability stitches you down in place and covers you up. My hands rest on my lap like a marionette with cut strings. I can't reach for my phone to call a friend. I can't discover events or invitations serendipitously. It feels like I'm forgotten. It's lonely to be homebound, despite the garland of caring community. And when I finally spend thousands to rent an accessible van so I can push into life with friends, I find myself stuck at the side of the pool because the chair that lowers cripples into the water is broken. Stuck just outside the dance floor because they forgot there's a step barring me from rolling onto it. Stuck on a wheelchair lift, missing my partner's daughter's last primary school concert, waiting 40 minutes for the technician to arrive and to stop the incessant beeping and deliver me from the cage. Last year, I returned from Ireland and was embraced by my beloved. I spent the night at his home and woke with my head resting on his shoulder, my hand on his chest, held by his. I've often said to him, "This is a favorite place." Now at night, I feel like a surfboard packaged for international travel. I lie with silicone stickers and sheepskin on my bony bits to cushion against bed sores and water blisters. 5 pillows prop up unmoving limbs. My scapula is tucked, arms pulled down, fingers spread and curled around a pillow. Ventilator mask on, TENS unit pulsing. A cherry red cocktail of 3 pain meds has been pushed through my tube. They taste like a children's party if I burp. I lie motionless. A magnetic pull burns in my body to be held by my beloveds, but I am held hostage by gravity. ALS is a heartless landlord, relentlessly evicting me, tearing my belonging apart, sending me and my naked arse into the streets. The worst days are when I have no more fight, when I slip out of all shelter, the mud parting between my crumpled feet, black waters rising, swallowing me completely, and I feel nothing.
Thank you. Yes, I am short. Hanna, thank you so much for the invitation to read. I have been thankfully getting invitations to dinner in November and invitations to visit friends, and I'm so glad that I said yes to this invitation. I thank you for your words. The phrase terminal body, I've been thinking about a lot. The thing that is ever on my mind is being Black and queer, and how that puts me at a certain risk. The two poems that I'm reading tonight, one of them is about being depressed, and the other one is about joy. So I'm going to start with this one called Sifri, and Labi Sifri is a British poet and singer-songwriter. He wrote the song "I Got the" in the 70s, and Eminem sampled it in the 90s. And I just recently discovered him, and I also discovered two other people I mentioned in this poem, Melvin Dixon and Christopher Gilbert, who were also Black poets. Dixon is no longer living, and Gilbert is also dead. But Sifri is still alive, and very interesting person. Not to go on a tangent, but he had two husbands. Just very interesting person. Just a fun fact I thought I'd throw out there. Sifri. I got the here with me, naming this one for another Black poet I never knew, a Dixon, a Gilbert. Now that I've found you, something deepens inside. The snow at my door is voiceless. The air this time of year crackles through my thermals. Yes, I got the blues, and anything else collects on the cuff of my pants. I got the beat, lines for Sifri. May be the start of a song, though I don't have the acumen to compose on treble clef. How about these words? I pulverize flour, roll it up, wonder if my ancestors got this high. 20 years from now, my heart turns diamond from the pressure. I'll harness my tears to voltage. Then I won't ask dumb-ass questions like, why does it feel like this to be lonely? I know how late I came out. Years I reasoned myself away from the man with eyes trained on me. When I come down, my nerves steady. I don't want to smash my valuables anymore. I've got the night with me here, and she writhes with frost, full of broke bottle sprinkles and fall-apart paper. Immense black I crawl into until the lemon-bright punch of morning. All I'll say about this poem is that I think about my parents' generation in creating this one, and I also wanted the poem to be just about two people and not to let gender come into the equation, though I'm sure it kind of does, but inventing nostalgia. This is the way love got to be. Old school and pressed, slick leather wool collar. He sprays cologne, shakes down shoulders to Atlantic Star. If you know the way to court someone full tilt. That medium rare cut, third glass of red. The way he laughs, hearty. The way his Stetson diffuses as he sits. Let's take it back, hem the pants and crease the fronts. When the cinema fetched $1, goddamn. Two grown folk versus pocket squares to breast. It's not the culture we miss, it's the tempo. Lazy day sway to Thursday night. You ain't lying and he ain't buying your tickets tonight. But he delivered when he scooped you up with his left arm. He wasn't lying when he rapped thick about what he'd do. It took you some minutes to relax into such warm bounty. Let's make some kids. The bullshit, mayhem, car alarm, midnight, outside those theater doors. Within, you and main man promise to hold the length of the film. Concessions, popcorn. Compromises, a few. You wanted 2 rows from the screen and he wanted to fade into the back. The night's black shifts subtly. Animal eyes survey the dark. Their calls beckon you out to the streets. With afro sheen and crushed Newports, lessons and lesions, brown skin meeting of mind and fingertips. You two can get some smooching in before dawn swells, but he better watch where he puts his hand. With pockets so big, he might lose a wrist to that dark you carry around. Thank you.
I'm just gonna, hi everybody. Hello, Hanna. I just wanted to start out by saying that, Hanna, I am so stupidly grateful to be here, just as I was so grateful to share Ireland with you and your kitchen table and every moment you have given me. And as everyone was reading, it made me realize most of these are useless. Only 2 of them really matter. You're shaking your head, but you'll see. I appreciate that everyone who was up here was talking about time. I, within the last couple of years, got my ADHD diagnosis, and people have been putting a lot of things into context for me, which is that the neurodivergent brain, or the one that I have, time is now and not now. And the now is beautiful and terrible, intoxicating and absolutely miserable, and it's the here and the there. It's a kind of impossible place to be in. And when we were in Dublin together, Hanna was very much grounding for me. And so when I got your prompt, I'm just gonna stop, I'm just gonna read it. Feral for Hanna. That night, I was so afraid to lose the incandescent joy I'd found that I left my friends at the bar to sit alone in the window of a closed store on Duke Street. The rain flirted with falling, settled for hanging a mist, pebbling on my glasses. I was texting out belated apologies, releasing them like lanterns into the city. Sorry, I was late, I was lost, I forgot, I never responded to your message. My phone was off and hidden in my dirty clothes. I texted you, sorry, my feelings are too big and I'm a poor vessel. I was pulled from the sill by a man who kissed me hard and hungry, a solid teeth through the lips kind of kiss. I melted right down to slag, or maybe it was the rain lashing free. Either way, Dublin blurred around me, a beautiful oil painting that I smeared as I ran, the crowd parting, pounding the slick cobblestones of Dawson away from the man, left him yelling, "What? So I'm not fucking good enough for you." I couldn't have said in that moment who was good enough for who. I just knew why dogs slump off alone to die. Your holy reply buzzed in my pocket as I was poised for the city train. Poor vessel, process, love. You're a process. I love the path you're on. We all need to go feral sometimes. And I love that you called your poem a body poem. And so in that vein, you know, if everyone just wants to feel very grounded to whatever you do when you need to feel that way, it might not sound like it, but I was in an incredibly good and freeing mood when I wrote this, and it's... Confucking-fetti. Well, today's the day I'm going to rip myself open and watch the confucking-fetti explode out with 6 doves, silly string ring of plastic keys, balloons propelled skyward by the blast, a tri-blend shot from a t-shirt cannon, penny candy discharged from a World War II grenade launcher. I am going to tear right down the middle, watch 20 clowns scamper out, half on stilts, a murder of crows, a war orphan, a key lime pie. The breeze that makes you push back your kill-by date. A laser light show will erupt from my heap of party garbage. Every plane for miles will crash exactly where I'm piled, and then... Thank you.
Holy smokes. Come on up, dear Fran. Throughout my life, when my father and I would look at the night sky, his right hand would lift and his pointer finger would lead my eyes to 2 familiar stars. See those 2 stars, he would ask? They are the pointers. Then he would start at the top pointer, draw a line to the second star, and extend the line until it met the constellation of the Southern Cross. From there, my dad would curl his fingers but keep his thumb and pinky extended to measure the length of the cross. Then he would extend the length 4.5 times along the axis of the cross. His pointer finger would reappear. There, he would say with satisfaction, if you draw a line from this point straight down to the horizon, you will know where south is. And if you know that, you can find your way. When my body slammed into the reality that I might have ALS, it was dark night and black waters all around. My familiar constellations were gone. My eyes darted around for wayfinders. I needed to build something to steer me through this crushing passage. I don't remember the sequence, only that I turned to those who had gone before me. I listened to a young man in Brooklyn. He was mute, so his cousin was reading his words. His diagnosis dragged him into a deep depression. It was only after his feeding tube operation, which, in my experience, felt like being badly beaten up, that he regained a sense of purpose and will to live. I read a blog by a woman my age. Upon her diagnosis, she went on a quest to be healed. She spent the better part of her health chasing down a miracle and died without finding one. I had at least 10 people who believed they had a cure for me if I believed this way, or thought that way, or attended this course, ingested that. Despite the fact that they had no experience with ALS and not referencing the work thousands of experts are doing to find a cure. Having had my magical thinking crushed too many times, and having sat under the deadening weight of depression myself, I discovered my first star. Do whatever it takes to come into agreement with reality, to play the hand you were dealt, despite your wish to chuck it into the blender and watch this deck of devastation disappear into smoke. Second star. I listened to an interview with Stephen Hawking. I didn't watch because I find the sight of him terrifying, knowing he is now a mirror of me. He said, I focus on what is possible, not wanting to will myself into being a person that always smiles and finds a silver lining. I mixed his sentiment with what I knew I needed. Star 2, grieve with abandon all you are losing. Pause, and when you're ready, focus on what is possible. Third star. My dear friend had been a babysitter for Leah, the founder of the organization called Her ALS Story. She encouraged me to have a conversation with Leah. It was my first real-life encounter with someone living with ALS. She was compassionate and inspiring. She was using her experience to build community for young women with ALS and advocating for legislative change. When we ended our conversation, she said, I'm so incredibly sorry this is happening to you. I choked with tears. I heard myself say, ALS is not only going to happen to me, I am also going to happen to ALS. The star there. I will use every ounce of agency available to me to respond to this boa constrictor with creativity and push more life into the world. Star 4. My most reliable source of wisdom is when I become quiet and open to the vast luminosity that some call God or Spirit. What I find there still challenges me. It says quietly and as clearly as a traffic sign, trust this. I don't know what to make of that intellectually, but my bones feel it. The words straighten my spine. I keep this close to my heart together with the prayer, please show me how. One night, I listened to Andrea Gibson talk about their journey with terminal cancer. They were asked a question from the deep. Can you love your cancer? Hearing this, I started to weep uncontrollably. How does one trust and even love the beast that will destroy me? I don't know. But as I have quoted Peter Block many times during facilitations, the answer to how is yes. It's time to drink my own medicine. The fourth star. Lean toward trusting and loving what is. The fifth star. What I didn't mention, and what you wouldn't know if your gaze hasn't traced the Southern Cross, is that there's a faint star between the arm and the foot of the cross. That one, as my colleague and bestie Marc reminds me, is for the fifth star, stubborn joy. Now, extend the long axis 4.5 times. Where that line ends, draw another line straight down to the horizon. South is there, even though you can't see it. Orient yourself the way migrating birds do toward the destination calling you. Now move, adjust course, move again, pause, feel for direction, find the magnetic pull, and move again. Remember that you are not alone in this darkness. Trust in the help, both seen and unseen. You can make this journey. Home is waiting for you. Let's take just a minute.
Level, please connect to power supply.
Do we have a way? Are you running low? Yeah, oh, damn. If we've got an extension, do we have the... Oh. Yeah, was there something you'd like to say while you still have power? No, we'll wait while you type. We've heard all about slow and fast writers.
I am grateful for every one of you and the devastation you weather. We have from an ancestor reminding us that we can do hard things. Thanks, Michelle King, for the reminder. Can we play the video of Won't You Celebrate With Me?
Yes, we can.
New York, near Buffalo, worked as a government clerk and office assistant. Her first book, Good Times, was rated one of the best books of 1969 by the New York Times. Lucille Clifton, who said, "One should wish to celebrate more than wish to be celebrated."
Won't you celebrate with me what I have shaped into a kind of life? I had no model. Born in Babylon, both non-white and woman, what did I see to be except myself? I made it up here on this bridge between starshine and clay, my one hand holding tight my other hand. Come celebrate with me that every day something has tried to kill me and has failed.
Thank you, Lucille. Thank you, beautiful writers. Maybe applause again, I think. Yeah. Thank you to our beautiful City of Asylum. And thank you, Hanna, for the gift of your life and words. Thank you, Amanda, the woman behind the scenes. She's shaking her head. You hate that. You have it coming, though. And good night, beautiful people. You can get a book on the way out. Thanks for being here. Yeah.